Hello everyone! Today I want to take time to walk you through some of the process of how I make my crystal jewelry. Yes, this is one of my pieces. I actually made this on 2/22/22. But yes, I want to show everyone a bit of what I do and how I make these amazing creations that I come up with my crystals. Being a Reiki healer, I do Reiki on all of my creations prior to packing and shipping them. As well, I cleanse them with Palo Santo. So when you order off of Etsy from me, you are getting something that is truly not only handmade with love, but Reiki infused and cleansed and full of gorgeous healing energy. I hope you enjoy this video and watching a little bit of what I do. Wanting to give you guys an idea of how I make my pieces, and there is a lot that goes into it. Don't mind the bubble in there. That is not a good thing, but that's going to get rolled out. So when I make bigger pieces, this is just the beginning of my process. So as you saw in the beginning, I started out with just a kind of a ball of clay, rolled it up, and then ran it through my pasta machine, which helps to then thin it out and make it bigger. I'm going to be working today with a cutter that's about 3 inches, although once the piece is done, it's going to get cut down into a different shape. But I want to have enough clay to work with to lay my crystals on, to do all of my detailing, and then cut it down from there. I also can't use a piece like this thinned out, to make a necklace, but I need it wide enough to fit the cutter. So I actually do layers of clay, rolling them out till I get wide enough and large enough for the cutter I'm using. And then, and of course I'm warm, so my clay's a little warm and sticky here this morning, but I'm gonna lay these pieces together, and then what I'm gonna do is roll them in order to sort of get them to stick really well before I place the cutter into and cut the actual shape. So my pendants are all different, but as you can see the thickness in this piece, I do love to have bigger pieces with a thicker base to them. That's just my personal preference. This is a larger piece, not quite as thick, but you can see you don't want a super thin layer of clay as your base when you're starting. So this is part of the process, rolling out the clay, layering it on top of each other. Then I'm going to roll this out so everything sticks together. Then I'll cut my shape, and then we go from there. So now my piece is all rolled out and cut. And as I said, I will be cutting this down as I create on top of it. But I do love textures. This piece, if you see underneath, I did not do any texturing in the actual clay. This piece I did. So you can see that underneath here, there is texture behind and under the crystals. I have these really cool sheets with different designs. So my next step is to press this into the clay, get a little design in there so there's something going on in the background, and go from there. When we are doing textures in our clay, you want to line it up. And what I have learned is the best thing to do is just do half of your piece first. If you press the entire piece down, it's going to stick. A lot of times the clay sticks to this actual plastic, and then you're having to peel it off, which means that you are sometimes ruining the shaping of your clay. Now again, this piece, this circle is not going to be a circle by the time we're done. It will get cut down, but as you see, I am comfortably pressing just half of this in. Peel it back so it's not stuck, and then press down the other half and go from there. And as you can see, now my clay has some texture. So behind the crystals and the designing that I'm going to be doing, there's a little more going on. One of my next steps is making the top for my piece where the chain is going to go into. So I get creative with my tops and my necklaces. I always make clay pieces, which as you can see, the chain goes through, but I need to cut them. And I like to do that before I get too far in, because once I start to lay out this necklace, I want to make sure I get this in place so that I don't forget or I don't get too far into the project that I can't fit it on. I will also take my top piece here for the chain and imprint that as well to give that a little detail. So I'm going to do that next. Next step for me is basically laying out my crystals, determining how I want them placed, at which point, once I decide where they're going to lay, I will simply take a little bit of clay. So I will pull them off. Actually do a little bit of clay on the back. So just a very little bit, sort of spreading it out, thinning it out. Doesn't have to cover the entire piece, just enough to sort of make sure we're getting it to stick comfortably. Now, I don't know if everyone else does this. This is just a little tip and technique that I like to do. What I'll then do is go in and just do some scoring on the clay. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to take here what I have. This is a clay adhesive. So I like to make sure that my clay is really, that these pieces are really going to stick. I'm not ready to place this yet, but what I will do is put just a very, very little bit of adhesive on the back of here so that when I get it in place and I'm putting it onto my main piece, that I know it's going to stick and stay. This will also help when I bake it to make sure it bakes good and solid to that clay. So my crystals are now placed and stuck onto the clay. My chain holder is now placed on and adhered to the top. So now we need to add some detail. Now it's time to work on detailing. So details as far as beautiful, what I call ropes or vines, all the detailing that is going to go around these crystals. I'm going to start by just cutting some strips, which once I cut these down, I am then going to use this piece of cardboard underneath to roll the clay out so I could make braids and things like this to place around the crystals to give it beautiful detail. When we are rolling out clay, it's important to remember to be very patient and to take our time. I roll on cardboard, and because it moves easily, I have these heavy containers of crystals I set on the other end. But when we're rolling, you really want to take your time. Make sure that you're being very slow, gentle, so that your piece is coming out even. Not that you have a thin spot, a thick spot. You want to be as even as possible. So patience is key here. I have some of my detail work started. Can't wait to get more going on this beautiful piece. We are getting there. More details placed in, and more details and cutting to come. Ooh, we've come so far. Now, everything is cut. So as you can see, I have cut away all the excess clay, which is actually down here. So out of the way. I have decided that I do want to add a little bit of color to this piece. I really feel that the details and the crystals themselves really speak for themselves. And there's a lot of golden sheen in this labradorite. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of mica. So I use mica powder when I'm adding color to my pieces. The mica powder does adhere very well to the clay, and then when I bake it, it'll bake in. I just don't want to overdo it. So I'm going to put a little bit of gold into these buttons. Now, when you're working with mica powder, you want to be very careful to only put a tiny little bit on your brush. Otherwise, all that excess is going to fall where you don't want it to go. And that's the last thing you want to have to deal with. So anytime you're working with mica and putting coloring into your clay, just remember to be patient, take your time, tiny little bit of mica powder on the tip of the brush, and slowly work it into the clay. Now, usually when I use these colors, I will fully fill in these pieces, but I just want a very little bit of accent color. I do not want these buttons to be completely filled in. Some of the pieces I've recently made, I've used no mica coloring at all. So the pieces I showed you earlier in this video, I just think that the details and the clay itself, everything just speaks for itself. Sometimes adding color or adding too much color, I feel can make a piece gaudy. I think gaudy is the word I want to go with. But I do want to add just a little bit of color into this today. Just that tiny little pop. I might actually go in with a little bit of blue. So one of the very last steps you're going to do if you are choosing to work with mica and you want color in your piece, that's going to be the last thing you do before you bake it. So this is almost ready to go. The next step for this is that it will be going in the oven. Yes, polymer clay is a material that we bake in the oven. So this will go in the oven when it's ready. And the next part of the video you're going to see is the finished product. Actually, there's another step. So you'll see it almost finished, but I will be back to give you more. Alrighty, so my mica is done. I actually went in with both a gold as well as a blue, since both of these crystals have a lot of gold and blue flash in them. And I only covered or colored what I call buttons. And I actually did these buttons pretty subtle, but you can see the color. And I did them in both the gold and the blue. So they're almost a faded or swirled effect in their coloring, just like the crystals. So something different that I tried today. And again, just keeping it subtle as the piece itself. The details, the crystals are beautiful and just simply speak for themselves. Very last process in making jewelry. My piece is now baked and I am varnishing. So what to know about varnishing on polymer clay? It is not necessary. Nope. So if you're putting color, as I showed you earlier, doing mica or any type of color on your piece, you definitely want to do a varnish. I happen to use this one here. This is Deco Art Duraclear varnish. And what you're going to notice, and I didn't get very far with this, but what you'll notice is that, let me get better light, sorry. So without the varnish, it looks like the clay looks very, we'll just say dry. With varnish, it gives it this sheen, this beautiful sheen. And the particular clay that I use, it does have a almost metallic in it. So it brings that out. So even if I don't put color in my clay, I do tend to do this regardless. I think it makes it just makes everything pop. That's what I think. So let me finish this up and then we will look at the finished piece in just a bit. So the true finishing touch for me is adding a chain to all of my pieces. Now, what will actually take place after this is that I will be taking this necklace outside to do photos. I love natural light for really good photographs, although I swear no matter what the lighting, photos never do these pieces justice. But this is gonna go outside to get photographed and then listed on my Etsy. So, are we ready to see the finished product? I am so in love with this piece. Oh my goodness. All right, guys, here we go. There it is. See, the lighting in here does not do this justice. Let me see if I can change up. Maybe just turn it down a bit. Ooh, there we go. Look at that. So obviously lighting is huge to be able to see the beautiful flash and colors that are in these crystals. And of course, when I'm working in here, I have lights cranked up like crazy so I can see what I'm doing. But taking these pieces outside, taking my necklaces outside is really big to get just beautiful. But we'll do that. I like that because you can see that gorgeous blue flash in there. Look at that. But all of these little beautiful details I have in here, again, I feel like that light's drowning it, but you can see I have some leaves in here. I have what I call buttons and braiding, and it's very hard to see, but as I had said early in the video when I showed you guys when I was doing the mica coloring, I went very, very light in these buttons, and I actually mixed, you could see a little bit in this one, it's bigger. I mixed both gold and blue so that it kind of looks like the actual crystal itself. But this is today's creation. I want to thank all of you who stop in to watch this. This is what I do. This is what I love. Making crystal creations, jewelry, bottles. Goodness knows what I'm going to come up with next. And again, find me on Etsy. This gorgeous pendant will be listed at some point, probably tonight because I'm impatient. I love getting my pieces listed as quickly as I can. So if you enjoyed this video and seeing what I do, absolutely please comment and like it, subscribe, follow me here on YouTube. You can also find me as Amethyst Angel on Facebook and Instagram. So not only do I make crystal jewelry, but I am a Reiki practitioner, an energy worker, a light worker, a healer, a spiritual empath, a medium, and I do a lot of energy work, a lot of healing, a lot of positive videos. If you've watched previous videos, it's all about positive energy, love, light, blessings. That's what I do. That's who I am. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I will see you soon.